What's up, family? You are watching Everything Under the Sun. I'm your host, Kenny Love. I hope you guys encounter Jesus and realize that anything you go through is not above God.
That's deep dive with Under the Sun. That is the
You are a youth
podcast.
pastor. I say it's valid. Okay, well, what's good, family? I am your host of Everything Under the Sun, Kenny Love. Here's your boy Will over here. Say what's up, Will.
How you doing?
The other half, again, new member of Everything Under the Sun. And today, we got a very special guest. Give a round of applause to Mr. Evan Flowtron. He goes by Flow. So like Flow, like progressive flow.
Yeah, like progressive.
Like progressive. The other day, we were in chapel, and there was a speaker, and VP introduced Mo and Flow. And he was like, "What's your name?" He was like, "Flow." And the speaker was like, "Cho?" He's like, "Flow." He was like, "Oh, like Cho." He was like, "No, like Flow." He was like, "Oh, okay, got it." And he never even said your name. He never even said your name. But I thought that was hilarious. And on top of that, Will and I are matching today. Totally unintentional.
Nah,
Yep,
we
we
sent out a
FaceTimed.
memo in the group. We'll add receipts in post.
That's gonna be the joke.
said,
in
"Hey,
post.
we're
They're like,
red."
you fought that soccer kid, right?
Bro, neither of us play soccer, bro. We got jerseys on, bro. But it's a whole vibe, bro. Shout out to Seb, man. I miss Seb. Yeah.
I pray he's doing well.
Yeah, I
You
pray.
guys keep saying it like he's dead. Or something. Yo, shout out to my boy Seb. Man. He hooked us up before he left.
Seb is not
I
dead.
miss him, man.
Yeah, Seb is
Seb
alive
is
and
not
doing
dead.
very well.
He is alive and well. Seb is alive and well. Okay, well, anyways, man, I guess just jumping straight into it, man.
Yeah, brother.
We're getting a little bit of a rhythm going, bro.
I know,
I kind
that's
of like
hard.
this. But anyways, Flo is not yours. He is my boss, but also I call him Unc. I'm starting all the other RAs we starting to call him Unc, but really just kind of like father / friend / like mentor figure, like you know those like friend-tor figures kind of thing. Well, I really appreciate you for that because that's the role I think you occupy, at least in my life personally.
I appreciate that.
So,
Dude, that means a lot. When I worked at a church over in Tulsa for quite some time, right? And my boss, one of my bosses there, was telling me a story when he got saved when he was young. His best friend didn't, they went to the same, I don't know, whatever they went to.
yeah,
That led my boss to get saved. His best friend was there, didn't have the same encounter, didn't have the same experience. And so he, like, for the course of months, like, was going hard trying to get his friend saved because he wanted him to experience the same life change that he had felt.
yeah,
And it got to the point where the friend, like, kept, like, dodging him.
yeah.
Like, he'd want to hang out, he'd want to do whatever. And the friend was like, oh, no, like, I can't, I got to do this, got to do that. And so finally he's like, hey, like, are we good? Like, what happened? And his friend was like, man, like, you're just always trying to preach at me. Like, I don't need a preacher. Like, I need a friend. And so, and that's always resonated with me. It's like, man, if I want to make an impact with somebody, and like, and you using the, mentor and all that stuff, it's fine. But like for me, I feel like there's a certain level of weight that comes with it to be like, oh yeah, like, I mentor Kenny. But if it's like, nah, like Kenny and I hang out, like, yeah, I'm your boss, but like we can just kick it in the manner in which I live my life, the way in which I talk, the way in which I share my experiences of what God's brought me through, self-imposed hardships or God-imposed hardships or anything. Like, if I can just share that with you in a very organic setting of just like, dude, you're cool, and I think I'm cool. Like, let's just hang out.
Yeah.
And, then it just kind of starts to, osmosis
No facts.
goes out, and like whatever needs to hit with you will hit, and whatever you need to grab, you can grab onto. And
Facts.
it makes it easy,
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that's what I try to do with all you guys up here at the school, and
For sure.
just be me and
You do a
kinda
good job, bro.
be raw with it.
I'm
And,
about to say.
You know,
Yeah.
not sugarcoat anything because life's hard.
Yeah.
I'll be the first to attest to it. But, you know, God is good.
For sure. Facts. I say that is, that's something I really appreciate about you, like beyond cameras. Like, I'm not just saying this for a camera or whatever, but I really appreciate it. Like, I can feel like liberated with you, and like free with you. Like, cause whenever Pastor AJ, whenever he was down, he was like, although I'm crying, I'm normally a very like cold man and whatnot.
Yeah.
And I just appreciate like how like real and vulnerable you can be. Like your transparency is really like an invitation.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that. Like, I can talk about anything. You know what I'm saying? I can talk about a girl issue. I can talk about, you know what I'm saying, relationship stuff. I can talk about what he's unk for real. He's unk. That's why the role has changed, because we used to call you mom and dad from Moan Flow, but now it's unk for real. But other than that, getting into that, Flo, if you could tell our people something about you, man, what do we need to know about you?
Golly.
I know you didn't prep for this. That's my fault.
I don't know. Man, I grew up in St. Louis, Missouri. Moved down to Tulsa when I was 19. Did an internship at a church there. Ended up working there for 4 years, including the internship. Youth pastored for all 4 years there. And then moved on to college, went to Oral Roberts University. 4 years there, studied business finance for my undergrad. That's where I met my lovely wife, Mo.
Shout out to Mo.
Huge shout out to
Shout out to Mo.
Is my better half. She is the best thing that's happened to me since my salvation.
Hey, man. I love that you say that.
Oh, and it's true, man. She makes me the best version of me, which sounds super corny and cheesy, but she pulls the right stuff out of me, you know. And if I, you know, I'm walking around with my head up my butt, she'll tell me. Yeah. So, met her at college. We were friends for 3.5 years before we started dating, because I had my head up my butt. And I had a full-on God encounter that gave me the green light to start pursuing her as a girlfriend, and then soon to be fiance, and then quite soon after that a wife. That's a dub. We got married November 27th of 2021, so we're coming up on 3 years this November, which is awesome.
Come on, that's a W.
Shout out to men and women of God.
What else? Moved down here 2 years, year and a half ago. I have a daughter. She's in heaven. Her name is Mashudu Grace. And yeah, I think that's about sums it up. That's me in a nutshell, I guess.
No, that's just straight to the point. I appreciate awesome. That. So now for something you were a little bit ready for, just wanted to, and also this is just like, I know there's no really point of reference because the last video with Isaiah hasn't been posted yet for you to view, but this is just the chillest atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? Just relax, just like, just say anything, and literally it's okay. Like if you cuss, like it was
an ADHD.
I do, but I'll try not to.
For sure. But with that being said, what has been going on in your life in terms of what the Lord's been sharing with you, like something that could be impactful to someone watching and listening?
Yeah, man, really, this whole season, these past few months, it's really been about grief and suffering. You know, I just said, you know, we have a daughter. She's in heaven. She was stillborn right at the start of the 3rd trimester, and completely unexpected, and really just kind of rocked our world. You know, like we had a few weeks prior to that, maybe a month prior to us losing her, we had maybe a little bit longer before that, you know, the gender reveal. You know, people knew, everybody knew, family knew. Like we were planning a baby shower here in OKC. We were planning a baby shower up in St. Louis with my family, and all of a sudden it came to a screeching halt, right? And you know, it when it happened, we took some time. We went to the hospital, did everything, found out there was no signs of life. Took a day before we went back and processed. It was a Thursday, and we were just processing it, you know, like how do you even start to process the loss of an unborn child. And you know, I think just immediately for me it was like, okay, look, like she passed, but like God didn't take her. You know what I mean? Like I don't believe, based on what we read in the Bible, right? Like we are way more of use to the Lord here on earth than we are up in heaven. You know what I mean? So I don't believe that God takes people. I don't think God brings death to people, right? Mm. Now it happened.
Yeah.
So then how do you reconcile that? And I think for us, it's just a matter of we live in a fallen world, right? You know, the Bible says it rains on the just and the unjust alike. So how are we going to navigate this still holding true to like, okay, God didn't take her from us and God has a plan.
Right.
You know, so it's okay. You know, the Lord causes all things to work out for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purposes. Mm-hmm. And that's a verse that I've been standing on just personally for years now, because the route of my life has been nothing like I thought it would be. I'll be 31 in January, and I never thought I'd be where I am right now. You know what I mean? But like, I trust the Lord, and with every decision that I make, I heartfully, if that's a word, heartfully, like, try my best to make sure that it's the decision that the Lord is wanting me to make, and I'm going in the direction that the Lord is wanting me to go in.
For sure.
And you know, so it's the same with this. You know, really kind of dove into Job with this too, and knowing that, you know, God didn't cause her to die, but, you know, and this will mess with some people's theology maybe, but like he allowed it to happen, right?
Right.
And so then why did he allow it to happen? Not because he was testing me through her death, but by it happening, there's a different side of God the Father that I'm learning and experiencing the same way that Job did, right? Because, I mean, anybody that's read Job right at the start, you know, like God didn't cause all those bad things to happen to him, but he allowed the opposer to come in and do all those bad things to Job, almost as a flex, right? Where God was like, I know this guy, I know this guy's heart. He's not ever going to turn away from me. So yeah, go do whatever you want to do, and just don't kill him. You can do whatever you want to him or his family, his belongings. You just can't kill him. Opposer's like, all right, bet. And goes, wreaks havoc, you know, and his best friends come and like, oh, dude, you messed up. Like, you must have sucked somewhere with it, you know, hidden away that we couldn't see.
Which is wild. Those are
you know what I mean? Like his
friends,
boys, bro.
Terrible.
Like, oh, you must be you sinning in secret, aren't you, man? Like,
Something you gotta tell us, my boy.
Right? No, thanks, bro. Those are L-mans. Keep going.
But yeah, so through all that, through that suffering that Job encountered, you know, comes to like the climax of him just getting just completely raw with God and mad and just kind of popping off at God. And then God comes in and is like, hey, like, okay, where were you at the beginning of this? Where were you? And in that experience, Job went from just knowing about who God was to experiencing and actually understanding. And it adds depth. It added so much more depth to his relationship with God after the suffering than before. And I think that's how God uses suffering in our lives to bring us to a point to where it's like, okay, we have nowhere else to turn. And so we can either just continue to wallow in this suffering, or we can turn to God. And when we turn to God in those moments, it's like that Job experience where we get to encounter a whole new level of who God is. Absolutely. And it completely changes how we continue on in our relationship with him moving forward. Yeah. And I mean, so that's really since April, that's where Mo and I both have really been walking that out, and just like dealing with grief and kind of going through this suffering of loss and allowing God to show up in ways that we haven't experienced yet.
Yeah. That's, firstly, thank you for being willing to be vulnerable and to share that. I really appreciate that. That's gonna be powerful for the listener, and for me, of course, and I know for Will, for real. So, but that leads me to ask, I mean, I guess just to stay a little bit deep, you being like the leader of your family and experiencing this, how did you like walk through such, and actively are like walking through like such a like difficult time, seeing as to like your daughter and with Mo, like, you know, your wife, like also going through so much herself that, I mean, she can tell us herself, but like, how has that been for you specifically, handling all of the, I don't know, just everything that comes with it emotionally? And
it's hard, but not like not in like a typical way of being hard, because it's such an overwhelming like wave of emotions when it comes, and that's kind of after that initial week or so after her loss, and like, you know, we were so close to being in full term. Like Mo delivered the baby, we got to hold her and see her, and part of me thinks like, man, it probably would be easier if that wouldn't have been the case. Like if we would have just delivered her and they took her away, but they're like, hey, like, we're not rushing this. You guys can have as much time with her as you want. So we spent, which is kind of weird thinking about it. we spent a few hours with her body.
I don't think that's weird.
You know, but like it, after that first week, it just comes in waves. And for me, because I was raised in a household where like you don't really show emotion, like especially from my dad, like was just kind of like a sturdy oak tree. You know what I mean? Like I remember, I think the first time I saw him cry, he lost one of his best friends, died in a car accident. And I remember I was like 10, the ice cream truck was coming through the neighborhood. And so I ran inside, and my dad was just leaning up against the wall staring at the TV. And I said, hey, the ice cream truck's coming. Can I, and just like thinking he was going to say no, can I have $20 for ice cream? And he's just grabs his wallet and hands me $20. And I was like, I don't need this much. Yeah. And I looked up at him and just tears welling up in his eyes, and he just kind of like shook me off and basically was like, go away. So I took the $20 and got ice cream. But like that was that's a lot of ice cream. My boy's balling out. Like, hey, everybody, get the kids.
That's hilarious, yo.
But I think that was the first and only time I'd ever seen him cry. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so like he just did, unless it was anger, he didn't show emotion.
For sure.
And so I was never taught growing up like how to deal with it or how to manage it. And so, you know, growing up, becoming a young adult, moving away on my own, kind of having to learn it on my own. You know, through some men in my life, you know, through the church. Yeah. But when this happened, I knew myself. I was self-aware enough to know, like, if I don't force myself to feel everything that I'm feeling, I'm either going to bury it so deep that it's going to like affect my marriage in the long run. Yeah. Or it's just going to tear me apart. Was my initial thought. Yeah. And then the more I started to process it, was like, okay, like we're already at a loss, right? We've lost our daughter. So if I come out of this months, years down the road with nothing to give to somebody who crosses my path that's experiencing the same thing, then it's a total loss. Wow. Right. I mean, it's just, I mean, we're not net zero anymore. Like we're in the black or we're in the red with this situation. Right. And so I just decided in my heart, like that Friday we were in the hospital, because it was very emotional. I was like, I'm going to feel everything. If I'm going to cry, I don't care who's in the room, I'm going to cry until like the tears stop, and then I'll like compose myself and move on. And so I think by my taking that stance, like it gave Mo a little bit of freedom to be able to feel. I told her I wouldn't talk. She told me not to talk about her, so I'm going to try not to talk about her. But she
told you not to talk about her?
I'm walking out the door. She goes, don't talk about me. And I was like, maybe.
That's kind of hard. Mo, you're fake. You're fake. Keep going.
So, but she also like, she was like kind of parent number 3 in her house growing up. So, dealing with them, she also wasn't at liberty to like feel her emotions when she was growing up because she had to raise all of her siblings. And so I think by my taking that stance, if I need to feel it, I'm going to feel it.
Right.
Gave her the room to operate in those feelings as well.
For sure.
And that's really just kind of where we've been at, you know, I need to, I think more so for me, and I'll chalk it up to like, you know, part of what God's teaching me through all this too, but more so for me, like, I have to be able to use this experience to help people in the future. Yeah. And the only way I can do that is by feeling every single thing I feel and navigating it. And then whether I handled it properly or improperly, I won't know until after, right? But with every wave that comes and I handle it, then, okay, that was a learning experience for me. So it's like, okay, don't handle it this way. Let's try a new way in the future. And then down the road, when Joe Schmo, you know, at my church comes up, man, we just lost our baby. She was in the third trimester, stillborn kind of thing. Like, dude, let's grab a coffee. Let's talk. Cause I can help. Yeah. Like I 100% can empathize. This is how I handled it. Don't do this, you know, or do this, what I did. It might work for you, you know? For me, I have to be able to do that in the future. And so the only way from that is managing it. And I think being able to talking about it with you guys, and I know like pretty shortly after, I don't know if you were down there, but some of the RAs were in our apartment. I know it was 7DT. I don't remember if it was you too, somebody else. Maybe not. Even then, just being able to talk with you guys about it, and then having some guys in my life, Pastor AJ, is always my go-to, and then a few other people to where I can just go and be like, dude, I'm struggling in this area pertaining to this, or like Mo is struggling with this, and I don't know how to operate. Like, how do I manage this and still be able to lead, and just having that wisdom from older guys who haven't gone through what I'm going through, but are way further down the line in marriage and have experienced their own losses or whatever. I think I just burped into the microphone. Sorry. Take that out in post.
Okay, keep it pushing. Go ahead. That's an Instagram reel. Bro, sorry, bro. I know, bro, but the laugh, bro.
And I ate that ice cream. Bro. I had like 5 ice cream sandwiches that day, my boy.
Okay, I want to know, before you keep going, did you spend all $20 on ice cream?
Probably. I don't remember, but, you know, I mean, that would have been right around the housing crisis and stuff, so money was tight. So, like, my asking for that much money was, like, I was fully expecting a no.
For sure.
And so when I got it and went back out there, I probably was like, boys, we eating tonight. Like, yo, I just got that bag. Like, what do you want? You want something? You want something? Everybody's getting ice cream. Ice cream man, you want something? Like,
at least you were looking out. At least you were looking out for everybody.
Yeah, I probably did. But yeah. So, but being able to pull wisdom from guys that are further along, you know, is
for sure.
Is I think just in life in general, it's a necessity. You have to have guys in your corner that are further along in life than you. Yeah. That you can trust that what they tell you is like solid advice that can be applied, maybe not in the exact same situation, but they're at least speaking into your life in a way of like, okay, I need to try and handle this the same, like the way that he's telling me to do it. Yeah. So that I can have a successful marriage like that.
For sure.
You know?
Absolutely. Are you much of like an empath, bro? Because you're talking about like how important it has been, like, hey, if this emotion kind of arises, I'm just gonna like let it happen, and that being a healthy experience part. But or would you say you're more of an empath? Did you have to go out of your way, you feel like, out of your normal character in order to
do what I'm doing? Oh yeah, I would much rather, and for the longest time, like, didn't allow myself to feel. Yeah. Like that. Man, I was on a mission trip one time, had this crazy God experience where everything that was leading up, like, I always wanted to be the guy that was dependable, right? I wanted to be a man of my word first and foremost, but I wanted to be the guy that anybody could call at any time, and I would show up and get it done for him. Yeah. And if I couldn't, like, I'd had a connection that could get it done for him, right?
For sure.
And so in doing that, like, putting myself in a bad way a lot of the time to make things happen, but you know, you just kind of get a lot of ish too that you're dealing with, a lot of frustrations, a lot of whatever. And so in order to be able to move forward, you just take it and you just shove it down. Yeah. Right. And so for years, I mean, probably close to a decade at this particular time of just shoving feelings down and stuff. For sure. Was on this mission trip, and we were doing this, like, you know, spiritual moment type thing. And man, it was, I was talking about that, like wearing a mask, just putting on face so people don't know you're struggling, to keep going and doing what you're doing, which is fine, you know, because you're just shoving it down. Right. But you, whatever, in my head, I had like this picture of like a water, like a like an old clay, like water vessel, like one of the big ones, you know, like a water cistern type thing. Yeah. Is what I was picturing in my head when I was talking about this. And there's only so much capacity in that thing. So you can shove stuff down, and the more stuff you put in, the more it compacts, whatever. But there comes a point where you can't fit anything else in there. And so the vessel breaks, and it cracks, or a piece of the side chips out, and the stuff that's inside starts to leak out, you know. And so in life, like, that would consider that a type of breakdown. Yeah. Right. And so the good thing about that breakdown is it alleviates some pressure. Well, now there's more room in the vessel. You experience the breakdown, you get a little bit of healing, whatever, so you patch that vessel back up, and now there's room. You stuff more stuff down. Yeah. But at some point, that vessel, the structure of that vessel becomes so compromised because of how many times it's chipped, cracked, or broke, that it's going to be a full breaking point. Yeah. And you're just going to shatter. Bro. Right. And so I'm explaining to the people that are on that mission trip with me from personal experience. And like it was yesterday, I remember, like, I'm talking and my vision becomes like tunnel vision, like focus. And I just said, I'm so tired of being strong. And we were like, we had written stuff on paper, and I don't remember what I wrote. I think like tired of being strong or something. And I had that piece of paper in my hand, right? And I'm talking, it's in my hand. And I just finished talking, and there was like a lull in me speaking, and I remember crumbling up that paper and saying, man, I'm crying at this point. I'm so tired of being strong. Yeah. And I just opened my hand and let that paper fall. And it was like everything in me was just ripped out. Yeah. And just, after that, I mean, I was completely empty. Yeah. Like, and I felt it, like physically felt completely empty. For sure. And from that point, it was like, okay, how do I navigate this now? And it's, you know, the Lord can come in and I can let him fill me with like the water of life, or I can keep filling it with my own crap. And I think I did a little bit of both. But to full circle to what you asked, like, me being able to feel has always been a struggle. Mm-hmm. And so in this instance, like I said, I knew if I didn't force myself to feel, then I wouldn't, and I would just shove it down, and it would cause a break later on. Yeah. Which would affect, you know, with something this heavy, it would affect just my life overall. It would affect my job. It would affect my marriage. Yeah. I mean, it would affect relationships with friends, with family, and that's not something I wanted to jeopardize, especially not my marriage. Yeah. And so I knew, like, I have to make myself feel and just kind of grind out these emotions and experiencing them, so that in the long run, my marriage is better off.
Sheesh. Man, that's such a good way to put it. Because I feel like for so many people who are on the more empathetic side, it's less of a grindish feeling, more or less just like it's like letting things happen. But like, that's just so real, bro. That's so real. Just grinding it out.
Hey, explain that word for people who don't know. Like,
what you mean?
Empathetic.
Empathetic. Basically, like being an empathetic person is more of like a emotionally resonant person. I'd say that's kind of how I would define that word. If I'm an empath, like although you have a situation, I can't like I don't have the experience of the situation. I do have some emotional like resonance for that.
So like it would be like, you know, there's empathizing and there's sympathizing, right? So you're going through a hard time and like for the longest time, like people are like, oh man, like, you know, I can sympathize with that. Like I can give you emotion because of what you're going through. But empathizing is like, man, you're struggling, like you're dead broke and your car just broke down. Like, bro, I can empathize with that. Like I've been in that
like
same situation. There before. And so like there's a deeper level to it because like I'm not just giving you emotion because of what you're going through, but like I'm now feeling what you're feeling because I too have experienced that.
Very well said. That's good.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah. Period. Well, I mean, unless you got more that you want to touch on with this subject, Flo.
No, I mean, if you got questions, I'll answer them. But
say
I'm
this.
just kind of flying by the seat of my pants.
No, I hear you. I hear you. So, hey, so are we. We doing the same thing. One thing, and I do want to thank you again because it does. I know it takes a lot. Like you're literally telling us it takes a lot, and you're doing this right now. So thank you. But one of the things that we talked about last time, whenever we were hanging out, playing Mario Kart, playing Gang Beasts with DT. Shout out DT. I know you're gonna watch this, brother. I love you. We were talking about your experiences in Tulsa, feeling like you didn't have, and I hope I'm not crossing any kind of boundary by talking about that conversation that we had. Feeling like you wish you would have had, and that's something that constantly goes in my brain. Something like a figure, like a male figure, just to walk with you and tell you, "Hey, bro, like, what the heck are you doing, bro?
Yeah.
Like, stop that." Or like, "Hey, man, like, we need to walk this way." Or like, "Here, I'm here for you," et cetera, et cetera. And one thing you feel like is that you're learning at the age of 30 how to be like a son.
Yeah.
Can you like tell me? I know that's not like a direct question, but can you kind of take us into a dive into that experience?
Yeah. Man, and it's crazy because that conversation's been on my mind too. I don't really know how to recap it for this in a synoptic way to give people what we talked about. Basically, like I was brought up in the ministry without having, like, growing up, didn't have a present father in the sense of like fathering me. He was there, he provided, he showed up when I had games, whatever. But like on an emotional level and a developmental level, wasn't there. So that in the ministry kind of transpired the same way. People were a lot more task oriented. You know, you get the job done, and then like I would get praised for getting the job done and doing it well. So then it just kind of fed into that bad habit type stuff. But just even at work, talking about some pastors and stuff, and seeing how like people lead unless you are so like intentional with learning better habits, learning how to think better, learning how to lead better, learning how to empathize better, just all these things. You're going to lead from a place of how you were led, right? Same with being a parent, of what I've been told. People parent their kids the way that they were parented, unless they are intentionally see the bad ways that they were parented and then actively try to not do that, right? And so, I mean, just the other day I was talking with my boss about a pastor who has a successful church for the most part, but can't retain a team. And you know, and my boss was like, man, I don't know why. I don't know why he can't, you know, retain this area of his team, but the turnover is so high. And, you know, and this is kind of how he leads and how he is. And in my like immediately that conversation was brought back up, and it's like that pastor's leading from how he was led. He's not developing himself or his leadership in a way that is going to be more productive in the culture we're living in, with the people that he's reaching and the people that he's trying to bring to his team. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like, it just, everything kind of circles around that. You're going to lead from how you were led unless you learn other habits. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I think a big part of it, to try to circle it back to your question about sonship, was I never learned how to be a son, because my relationship with my dad, even now, he called me yesterday, and he goes, "Hey, what kind of phone do you have?" Like, "Hey, Dad, how are you?" Like,
Yeah.
I've got an iPhone. Why? What's up? He goes, "Oh, never mind." I was like, "Why?" I said, "What's up? What are you trying to do?" He goes, "I'm trying to change my ringtone on my phone." He goes, "But I have an Android." He goes, "So you can't help me?" And I was like, "Oh, okay." He goes, "Yeah, I'll just call your sister." I was like, "All right, cool."
All right.
He's like, "Love you." And he goes, "Yeah, talk to you later." Like, that's like my relationship with my dad.
Sure.
Always, like, if he needs something, he'll come to me and ask for it. If I need something, I'll go to him and ask for it. But other than that, there's really no relationship. We don't hang out. When I was growing up, like, he loved to hunt and fish, but that was his getaway from just reality, because he was working so much to be able to provide for us. So he never wanted to take me or Tori, my sister, along, because he was escaping from, reality into something that he loved to do.
Right.
And so never had those bonding experiences with my dad. And so now, like you said, I'm realizing, and it's kind of been a slow realization over the course of the last 2 or so years. Like, I don't really know how to be a son. And I've had a few guys in my life come in, in hindsight, see, like, they were trying their best to step into a fatherly role in my life. And I would let them to a point, but only to the point in which I knew, or like I was familiar with. Yeah. So I would only ever let them come into my life to the point of where, okay, this is how my dad was. Yeah. And so this is where they can come in.
Yeah, for sure.
And if they try to go beyond that, like, that's not okay.
Right.
And it was only not okay because I was unfamiliar with it. And so it's like, I don't need somebody telling me, "Hey, don't do that."
For sure.
"Hey, let's try this." "Hey,
For sure.
Because for all of my life, I figured it out on my own.
Yeah.
Now, being married and a real adult, I'm realizing, like, I need that in my life. Mm-hmm. But trying to find people at this age in my life, trying to find people that are willing to step into a fatherly role is actually kind of hard.
Yeah.
And but it's taken a toll on the relationship that I have with God as well, because my relationship with the Lord has always been more task oriented, not so much in like a works-based type of faith, or like works-based salvation.
Right.
But if I need something, I'll go to God, and he'll answer my prayer however he does. Or if I need to know what to do next, like, okay, God, like, you told me to do this, I did it, what's next? I'll go to God, and he'll tell me what to do next. And that's only a certain level of the relationship it's a very surface level type of relationship that we're supposed to have with him. And I think there's a point in our walk in Christianity, in our relationship with God, where that task-based relationship is okay. And Paul even talks about it very briefly in, I think it's Colossians, talking about a son and a servant. Mm-hmm. And when a son is young, he's tasked the same way that a servant is tasked, right? Even though he owns everything because he's part of the family, he still has to go to his father, the master, for permission to go and do, or to be told what to do, how to act, and different things. But at a certain point in the son's life, it goes from, okay, like, I don't need to tell you what to do anymore. Like, you know how to operate, you know how to represent this family, you know what I'm looking for, you know what I'm not looking for.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, go and do. And that's where I believe that's where the Lord wants to take all of us in our relationships with him, is we need to learn how to operate within his family, right? Because we're grafted and we're adopted into the family.
Yes, sir.
Right. So even
Yes, sir.
as an adopted child, like we have to learn the culture of the family. We have to learn how the family operates. Like what are the rules of the family? How, you know, don't wear your shoes in the house. Well, you know, the other house I lived at, I could, but we don't do that here.
Right.
You know, simple things like that. And then as you grow, you learn the culture, you learn the rules, you learn the behaviors, you learn what to do, what not to do, how to, you know, how the family operates, how the family doesn't operate.
For sure.
Even though you're still an adopted child,
Right.
after an appointed amount of time that's determined by the father, you are liberated into a way to be able to go and do and operate because he can trust you.
Yeah.
Right.
And so for me, I'm aware of that now, of like, okay, for the longest time, I've been task oriented with God, but there's something deeper. There's a deeper level of that relationship that he wants to take me to.
Yeah.
And I have to be able to spend time with him like he's a father.
For sure.
And that's what I don't know how to do, because I never did that with my dad.
Right.
Like if I go home today and want to spend time with my dad, it would be just us sitting on the couch, and he'd be scrolling on his phone, drinking a beer, and I would just kind of be sitting there like, okay, let's do something. What are we doing?
Yeah.
But sometimes that's okay.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes that's all you need to do is just go, like, because you're spending time together, right? Like we could be like the three of us, like cameras off, mics away, like we could all just be here in this room, all on our phones in our own world, but we're still spending time together, right?
Absolutely.
Like there's an investment being made into all of our lives just because we're together.
Right.
Right. And that's what God's looking for sometimes. It's not always like, okay, go and do this. Okay, now go and do that. All right, you did that. Okay, you could do it better, but let's keep moving. Sometimes just, hey, come sit with me.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Hey, like you don't even have to talk.
Yeah.
Just, hey, Dad, however comfortable, however relational you want to get with him. Like, hey, God, like I'm just gonna sit for I've marked out in my calendar this next 30 minutes. I have nothing going on. I'm putting my phone away, no distractions. I'm just gonna sit here. Would you come and join me?
Yeah, definitely.
And that's it. That's all you're doing.
Yeah.
And then you just sitting there. And for me, like that feels like such a waste of time because like
I feel you. I do.
Because I mean, especially in today's culture, you're always going. Nobody knows how to rest. But then also with just how I was trained and how I was developed as a young leader, you're always going. There's always something that needs to be done. And on an unhealthier side, the more stuff you get done, the more praise you get.
Right.
And which makes you feel better because you're getting recognized, you're getting adoration.
Right.
And so you just keep going and going and going and going, and then it leads to burnout, and then you're screwed.
Right.
Because you're stuck there.
Yeah.
Because bouncing back from burnout, which also, I worked through that too a little bit coming from the church in Tulsa. I mean, it's hard to bounce back from because it just leaves a bad taste in your mouth with everything.
Yes, it does.
Right.
And so, like, having to learn, like, okay, I can just sit and be with God, and I might feel a shift in the atmosphere. Like, I might feel his presence. I might just be sitting there by myself in a room for 30 minutes.
Felt that. Absolutely.
But it's okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm intentionally trying to spend time with God.
Yeah.
And the more that happens, the more that specific time is going to start to develop. And then it becomes more of an edifying thing to you where it's like, oh, dude, like, I have to do that. Like, not because I have to, but like for me, like I have to do that. And that's where I'm trying to get with myself is like, okay, like I can work. I know I can work. I'll work anybody. But can I out rest anybody?
Sheesh,
Can I out spending time with God more than anybody?
Oh my gosh.
Right now I can't.
Yeah.
You know, not that it's a competition, but even Paul says, like, I if I boast in anything, I boast that I pray more than all of you.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's a good boast.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Well, it's like for me, like, dude, I would love to, especially in today's culture, be like, oh, dude, you running yourself rampant, man. I rest so well. Like, I rest way more than all you punks. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Man, wow. That is such a, oh my gosh, bro, you're going off. You're preaching. But because I recently watched this podcast with John Bevere and his pastor in Tennessee.
Who is his pastor?
I don't know his name. He's some popular guy. He's an Australian guy or something like that.
Cool.
But anyway, pastors in Tennessee. And the whole podcast episode, I know we're talking about like relationship with the Father. But this was about like a digital fast thing. And he's inspired me. All my stuff is grayscale. There's no color on my tech. Unless I'm editing something, I need to see color. But one thing that his pastor said is like, what kind of relationship with the Father do we have? And this is a paraphrase. If every indiscretionary moment is like filled with something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly what that is, where it's just like, how can we say that we have any relationship, even not even to mention prayer, because like prayer so many times can look like work. Like we make it look like work.
Mm-hmm.
Like your first 10 minutes, you need to be praying in tongues. Then you need to be interceding for the next 30 minutes. And then you need to be asking for da-da-da-da-da. And then you got to ask for, and it's just like, yo, like the Father, I think about when Jesus says that to go to the secret place, right? Go shut your door. And your Father who is in secret, he will reward you openly. And that like the Father is just already there. He's already here. He's already here and literally just wants us. And again, shout out to Pastor AJ, because he at the retreat really brought that to life in me. Whenever, especially, he was talking about that if many people saw his prayer life, people would think that he's just asleep or whatever. And just like he brought that to life in me, that we should just be sitting and having moments of no real motive except just Jesus. So that's really impactful for me. So thank you for sharing that, bro.
Yeah, and I think, man, it doesn't have to look the same as anybody else's either, right? Like I think, like we were talking before we started this, talking about like working out, and like for me, like I'm at my best in my fitness when it's put in a very convenient time for me.
For sure.
Right, and I got that from somebody else. Like that's not a me thing, but like I think that I tread lightly here. I'll make some Christians mad.
Go crazy, bro. Go crazy.
I think that like especially if you're just starting out, or like, you know, for me, like I was so diligent with it when I was young, and then I got into the real life, and you know, life happens and things take over, and like it no longer becomes convenient to spend hours in the Word and spend hours in prayer. And I don't think there's anything wrong with like putting your prayer time, putting your time in the Word in a convenient time for you, right? Because you're still, it for me, it's all about the heart posture of it, right? Yeah. If your heart posture is, if you've got, you know, a 15-minute time slot here between this class and a 15-minute time slot here between class and rehearsal, and 20 minutes between rehearsal and work, like you can use those time slots to pray, to just sit in His presence, to get into the Word, and make it work for you. And I think, I mean, stuff like that, which is very important, prayer and the Word, but there's seasons where life is just popping off, and you don't, I mean, to find 30 minutes of where you can like productively do something, like it's hard. And so that's okay. Like there's a preacher one time that said, man, if you only talked to your wife or your girlfriend every time you got in the car, that wouldn't be a very good relationship, would it? and at the time I was like, dang, like that's right. Dang, that's convicting, because most of my prayer time was in the car. Yeah. But in that season of my life, I had multiple times a week, I had a 30-minute drive one way to the church that I was youth pastoring at. And so that's when I would do it. Because if I was at the church, the building that I was youth pastor at, I was working. Or if I was at the church in Tulsa, I was working. And so that 30 minutes of just me time was like, all right, I'm just going to put on a little bit of worship music, and I'm just pray in tongues. Or I'm just going to talk to God. Or I'm just going to vent to God. Yeah. and multiple times a day or multiple times a week, every day. And that's, to me, that's no different than how I am with my relationship with my mom, right? I really only talk to my mom on the phone. On rare occasion, I'll be in my house and call her. But most of the time, it's like I'm driving from here to here. I've got more than 10 minutes. I'll call my mom and talk to her. And that's like, our relationship is good. Our relationship is fruitful, and it's still growing, and it's still developing. Now, I think if that's the only time I ever talk to my mom, there'd be an issue. That relationship would at some point stop being fruitful. But I think if you're trying to just get into something, or you're trying to really build this habit, if you're in your car a lot, then yeah. If the only time you're talking to God is when you're in your car, because that's when you are completely free and have the mental capacity to do so,
right,
then do it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anything wrong with that, with making your spiritual times convenient within the schedule of your everyday life.
For sure.
Because it develops as life moves on. It develops. Your schedule changes. You're able to adjust things and move stuff around, put more intentional time of like, okay, I've got 3 hours before work every day. I'm going to spend an hour every day in the morning or in the evening or in the middle of the day just with me and God. It develops as your schedule develops, right?
Mm-hmm.
I could be wrong. I'm not a pastor anymore. What do I know?
I hear you. School, you got something, bro?
Nah, bro's just dropped. I'm genuinely just listening.
Listening.
I'm not gonna lie. Like, I'm over here, like, I'm like, I don't even want to ask a question.
No, fact.
I don't even want to. Your questions are fire right now, and you're seriously dropping the mic right now. Like,
No,
go ahead, break it. I'm so bad.
I feel like my favorite out of, you're probably guest number 10 now, maybe.
Oh, he's white.
Yo, we got a white guest on the podcast. Yo, okay, it's been a long time coming, man. It's been 2 years since we've had a white guest.
Wow.
It's only been black people and one Indian guy, man. How does it feel?
I'm honored.
Yeah.
That's a huge. I'm representing an entire ethnicity right now. Like, daggone.
He is.
People are about to be
Wow.
confused. I'll be like, well, what is Will?
What is Will? No facts. That doesn't count though, because you're not a guest.
Yeah, I'm not a
You're
guest. I'm just
you're just a
co-host.
part of the, you're a part of the podcast.
Yeah.
But anyways, thank you for putting them on. But dang, bro, where were we even at?
I don't know.
I think. Oh yeah, the mic drops and stuff like that. Thank you for sharing that, because I think I was talking to Asher, and because I've been letting him know, I'm like, hey, bro, you're still the only white guy that's been on my podcast, and he's like, bro, just let me know when things change. When things change. And
So now you gotta hit him up.
I know now I gotta hit him up and
So
let him
that
know.
boy get married.
Yeah, he's finna get married.
Bro,
That's crazy.
that's wild.
Next Thursday. I'm actually, after this podcast, I'm finna go to Penn, or I'm finna get lunch. We finna hit the Gav, and then I'm finna go to
I'm hungry.
Penn, because we're gonna do an escape room and celebrate.
Oh,
First,
shit. Yeah.
today's
Dude,
his
that's
bachelor
lit.
party
Okay.
day.
Right
So,
on.
yeah, that's exciting. So shout out to you, Asher. I love you, bro. But anyways, yes, you were just giving us mic drops. And
Yeah.
my favorite guests, that's what I was going to say. My favorite guests are guests that, like, I can just, like, listen to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like, because you're not just, like, filling this time with, you're not occupying time with junk or whatever.
Mhm.
But this is, like, life-changing stuff. You know what I mean?
Bro
So it's-
practiced. He practiced before he came in here. He's
I'm just sitting in front of a mirror, just like, what if
He's
they ask
like,
me this question?
what's the
All
next
right, I'll
word?
say
I
it.
forgot my line. This is all scripted.
Yeah, it's all scripted.
You guys can't see it, but behind the camera is just a teleprompter just going
Teleprompter behind.
right here and right here. That's why I keep looking over that.
Is this
way.
even actually a dorm?
This is all a set. Like, we're not
Yeah,
even at
bro.
the
Like,
school.
we're really rich.
No facts.
God did.
But anyways, now I mean, with what you're sharing, it sounds like that you are like fully fledged learning like your sonship. And one thing that we talked about, another thing that's really stuck out to me is like, wow, like I feel like my relationship, as you've opened up about yourself, kind of took another step into a deeper direction, because you were talking to me about work, because you know you work next doors,
Yeah.
you help here, you work here, and you were talking about, I remember last year you would always say that like, oh yeah, work is cool over there, but I really like work here just because student interaction, whatever, everything like that. And, you know, I would always hear that, you know what I mean? Like, just, you know, work is good, just a slow day. Work is good, just a slow day. Work is good, just a slow day. But then we had that conversation when we were hanging out the other night. And when you opened up, like, yo, it's because of my struggles with being a son and how I feel like what's the next task, God? What's the next thing to do, God? And how this job is almost like this job is to me from an outsider. It's like it's from the Lord because it's challenging you to be, just to be.
Yeah, no, I mean it's infuriating in a sense because so I little background, work at the headquarters of the IPHC with the organization called Healthy Growing Multiplying Churches. We're church network, help people plant churches, help people revitalize their churches and stuff. I do a lot of the admin work and some of the operational stuff, but because we kind of work on the pastor's schedule, there are seasons in the year where it's really slow for us. We don't have events going on because pastors are scheduled vacations with their families and different stuff like that, or you know, their conference has something big going on and they can't, you know, afford to split their manpower or whatever it might be. And so there's a good amount of downtime where I'm caught up on most all of my stuff. And kind of telling on myself, don't really have the work ethic to like get down in the weeds with some of the administrational work that needs to be done. And you know, it still gets done. Don't worry. I don't know if Trey's gonna watch this, but I do all the stuff I'm supposed to do, boss. Don't worry. It just takes me
fired.
time. Yeah, I get a call after this goes up. It's like, hey, so just don't worry about coming in.
Yeah, I saw the podcast.
But no, so yeah, there's a lot of downtime, or just not downtime's the wrong word. Because there's always stuff that is being done. But there's a lot of slow times in the office. And, you know, coming from working at for all intents and purposes, a mega church in Tulsa, and then going to be a full-time student studying finance, and, I was on the cheer team there, and I was still plugged in at church. So kept myself pretty busy there, and then graduated and went straight to work full time in a leather shop making leather gear. And that was like, I was paid hourly. So the more I worked, the more I got paid, and there was always work that needed to be done. So I'm going in at 5 o'clock in the morning, clocking out at 5 or 6 o'clock at night, and just filling my time, always doing something. To this, where it's like we'll have really busy seasons and then we'll have really slow seasons, and that drove me crazy for the first year, And I knew, we keep talking about Pastor AJ. Pastor AJ is like an older brother mentor of mine, from the Tulsa area. The main reason why I am the way I am, like my spiritual formation wise, is because of him. Phenomenal guy. I don't know if I should full name drop him or not. Maybe for a different, maybe for the next time I'm on. But I talked to him about making this move. Mo and I coming out here to take this job at the headquarters, and I see what you're trying. Can you make it bigger?
No.
Okay, say less. Let's move.
And he told me, he goes, man, I really feel like this is why the Lord's having you go out there, and it's for what he said, to force me to slow down, and to learn how to rest, and to learn how to, like spend time with him and not just be task oriented with him, with God. And stubbornness, pride, hard-headedness, whatever you want to call it, like that first year, looking back on it, not completely wasted, because I feel like in the past year and a half I've been here, I've really grown, but definitely haven't utilized it as much as I should or could. But yeah, I mean, I really do feel like the time that I have now, like this downtime, it's really like my job's a job where like I clock in at 8 o'clock in the morning and I clock out at 5 o'clock. And when I clock out, like work's done.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know if the next job I go to is going to be like that. And so having a job where work is only for work, and when I'm at home, I can focus on my wife. I can focus on my relationships with you guys. I can focus on, you know, disciplining myself to spend time with my father.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, I say disciplining because to start any sort of habit or relationship like that, I mean, even think about like when you and Abigail first started dating, or you know, that your relationship is fresh.
Yeah.
Right. And so you're having to discipline yourself now,
Bro.
to really, if you want to spend time with, I don't know her name. What's her name?
Sophie. Yeah.
Was it
Sophie?
Sophie? Okay.
I was just say we can bleep it out if you don't want
No,
to.
it's fine. I don't care, bro.
If you're wanting to spend time with Sophie, like you're really going to have to discipline yourself in your time management of like, okay, I want to produce, so I'm going to produce from here to here. I have homework, so that's from here to here.
Yes.
And you're really having to discipline, like, how are you going to be able to spend as much time with her as you can? Because that's where you're at right now. Not that it changes, because I still want to spend as much time as I can with Mo. But it's the same with God. So when you're trying to form something new, a new relationship like that, like you have to discipline yourself and like really set time aside, because like you're not just disciplining your personal time, but you're disciplining yourself and taking time away from your friends and established relationships to be able to spend time with Sophie and build a relationship with her. And it's the same with God, right? Whether, you know, for someone like me who, when I was younger, my life was in such a way that I had nothing but time to spend with him. Yeah. And now that, you know, I'm married and have a 8 to 5 job, and Mo's got an 8 to 5 job kind of, and, you know, all this stuff. We're just like busy, like our lives are just busier. Like I have to now in my 30s rediscipline myself to be able to start spending time with him the way that I know I need to as a son, to be able to get the fullness of that relationship in my life. Not that I'm spending, I know I need to spend time with him because I'll get stuff in return, but just the fullness of what having a relationship with him looks like, the peace, the comfort, the strength, the rest, that all comes by the depth of your relationship with him, right? Yeah. And I'm at a place now where it's like, dang, I need rest. Right. Like I need strength to keep moving on. I need comfort in this time of grief. And so I'm now learning, I'm having to relearn and rediscipline to get back to a place. And it's restructuring the way that I think too, right? Because I feel like for most people, you know, you grow up here and there was a wave of just ministers in my life, maybe some others too, where it was like, if you're not waking up at the butt crack of dawn to spend time, like an hour in prayer and an hour in the word, then you're doing it wrong.
Right.
You know? And so for the longest time of my walk was like, dude, I can't wake up at 5 o'clock because I'm staying up until midnight doing stuff. Right. Like working, not just like staying up playing video games. I'm staying up doing stuff that needs to get done. Like I can't wake up that early and have like productive time in the word or in prayer. Like I'm missing it. Like I'm sinning or whatever it might be. Yeah. But then getting to a place now where it's like, no, like I'm gonna make it work for me until my life gets to a point where I can make my life work for it. Right. Period. I read I don't know what it's called, so don't ask me. But I read a book when I was a student at ORU.
What's it called?
Shut up.
Go ahead.
I probably still have it in my book box, but he talked about that. This is the only part of the book I remember, but he was talking about he was a pastor and a preacher, and for him, he would get up at 4 o'clock every day, and his property attached to a state park with a path. So he'd get up at 4:00 every day, and he would just go walk the park, and he would pray and spend time with God.
Yeah.
And he was telling, I don't know if he was like teaching a class or something, but was telling people about it. And this young kid, 17, 18 years old, comes up to him and is like, man, like I've been trying so hard to wake up at 4:00 to go on a walk and spend time with God. And like, or like go in my quiet place and just be in silence and stillness and spend time with God. He's like, I just can't, like, I can never stick with it. Like, I don't know what's wrong with me. And the guy was like, well, what do you enjoy doing? Like, what are you, what do you do in your free time that you really enjoy doing? And I don't remember what it was, but you know, the kid told him, and he's like, okay, so while you're doing that, spend time with God. He goes, cause me, like, I enjoy waking up early and I enjoy going and walking in the park. And so I'm using that time of doing something I enjoy to spend time with God. And so this kid started doing that, and like his whole, that whole discipline changed for him. Right. And so now for me, it's like, okay, what do I enjoy doing? Well, a lot of the times I just enjoy sitting at home. Like I'm a homebody, right? So I just enjoy sitting at home. So it's like, okay, if I've got time, I'm sitting at home anyways. So now it's like, I have to be aware enough to know it's like, okay, I'm here. I've got time. Just welcome God into this time.
Yeah.
And start using that as my time with God. I'm starting to do it. Need to do it more. But it's, it's all a process.
For sure.
It's all a process.
You just one step at a time.
Yeah, for sure. A lot of that can feel like pulling teeth, though, especially like whenever you have ministers or especially church people, because you see them on this pedestal as like oracles for God or whatever, especially growing up as a young boy. At least I did myself. And they'll preach so hard a direction, like this is what your prayer life needs to look like. It needs to look like how I'm doing it. And then now I'm at the age of like 21, like that, dealing with that feeling of like, is this the Holy Spirit or is this like my body not wanting to break this habit?
Yeah.
Right. So, I mean, I really appreciate that because you don't know, but you've liberated me in the area. I keep using that word, liberation and freedom, whatever. But in the aspect of like my relationship, that I can do what I enjoy and have that as time with the Lord. And even like starting to go on walks because I do enjoy a walk and listening to the word, or something like whenever I'm practicing an instrument, I invite the person of the Holy Spirit. And although I know he's with me, whatever, theologically, whatever, but like Holy Spirit, like I acknowledge you, teach me, let's spend this time together learning how to play the drums or whatever, and so on and so forth. So just thank you for that. But
well, I'm happy that it's helpful to you. And just, I know we're getting ready to come to a close, but just something, talking about those preachers that are telling people like this is how you have to spend your time. They're the same ones that tell you like there's no formula to God, right? And how God works, like there's no formula. And then they like turn around and try to give you this formula of like how to spend time in the Word and how to spend time in prayer. It's like there's not, man. There's no formula. There's no like perfect way that's gonna work for every single person that is a Christian to do the things that we ultimately need to do to have that relationship with God that we're supposed to have.
For sure.
And it really does. I mean, like you said, there's liberation in knowing like you can do what you enjoy doing as long as it's not like causing you bodily harm or like just blatant biblical sin. Right. And like invite the Lord into it, and like you're spending time with him because like you enjoy it, and like for you to have that joy in your life by doing something, like the Lord wants to experience that thing with you too, right? Like you having joy brings him joy, right?
Absolutely.
Like, that's not heresy, right? And so welcome him into those times. Like when you're producing, like, man, like you have a call on your life to produce music. And so it takes up a lot of your time, but like, dude, invite the Lord into that time where you're like grinding out in the lab, just trying to get stuff out. Like invite the Lord into that time and just see what happens. Just watch how like these crazy new ideas that seem so apparent that you've never seen before.
Yeah,
Like,
man.
it's just never clicked with you before. Like, watch that stuff start to happen, because
Yes,
the
sir.
Lord wants to enjoy that stuff with you, right? That He's what father doesn't want to spend time with their son doing something their son enjoys,
Right.
right?
Dude.
Right.
Yes.
That's good,
That is
bro.
fire.
That's good.
I 1,000.